Welcome, everybody.
I'm Heather.
And I'm Herbert.
Welcome to
And
the
to the
Random
Random
Fandom
Fandom
Zone.
Zone. All right. Here we are. So,
Oh, hope you're having a good evening,
uh,
everyone.
oh, yes. Welcome to the podcast. The podcasting really has blown up over the last 20 years, something like that.
Oh,
Um,
it's going crazy. It's crazy, crazy land.
I don't know if did I ever tell you about the Return of Whatever podcast that we did, like in
Yes, I
2000?
am. I'm aware that you had some podcast that you did back in a million
Yeah,
years ago.
it was an educational technology podcast that I did, and really at the time, I mean, I won't say that we were pioneers because there was other people that did podcasting, but it was it was one that actually got onto where you can kind of find it for a little bit. But the weird thing back then was that you had to find a way to host it yourself. So at the time, I had a domain that I forgot how much space, not a ton of space. So I would put the good file there for a while, then I'd make it a lower resolution file to make take up less space. So I mean that's 20 years ago was space was kind of a premium, but today things aren't as bad. So hopefully do you remember when you first started listening to a podcast?
Gosh. Okay,
Or
it was before the pandemic that I would listen to podcasts.
or what podcast it was?
You know, because I've never really gotten into one podcast that I really did very religiously. I always just kind of I would more theme through and look for like a specific episode on a specific subject I liked.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's a few, especially when the elections were going on. There's a couple of political podcasts that I've listened to a lot, and then now the election's over. It's kind
Mhm.
of less so, and I think that has to do with a lot of people as well. Um, so yeah, it's kind of interesting. So
So last time we had talked something about a little bit about the Star Trek books because we did Babylon 5 and my Peter David Star Trek novel author had written some Babylon 5 novels. And I haven't apparently the Babylon 5 ones I think are a little harder to find. I think they're out of print, but I have been reading some David Peter, his name was David Peter, Star Trek novels. I did Q and Law, I'm doing Imzadi now. You know what? Would recommend. I mean, they're light, they're stupid, they're fluffy, but if you like Next Generation, if you like that feeling of the world and those characters, I think he does a pretty good job with the characters. You know what? They're fun. If you want a little light reading, a little put you to sleep reading, I'm kind of enjoying those. And I'm gonna read more of Peter David because
well,
he
think
has
how
my take. Like he likes Deanna and Riker. He's a shipper. He's a shipper of Deanna and Riker. So if you were a little girl who grew up plussing Troy and Riker, Peter David could be the writer for you.
think how different the landscape it is for novels now, because they're in the 90s and 2000s even. I had some friends that knew people, or I had some friends that tried to dabble into writing, and basically they would basically like I'm a big fan of the Destroyer series, the Remo Williams series. I remember the first ones I got. I lived on. I don't think you were quite this. You call yourself a military brat.
I would call
Uh,
myself a military
okay,
brat.
well, I definitely was. So basically, the GIs when they leave, they get rid of all their stuff. And in the library, they had like these books. So I saw a couple Phoenix Force or Able Team. I was a big A Team fan, and I saw this Destroyer. I thought, what is this? Read it, loved it, and every time I would find any of those free books, I would take them and add it to my collection. So I don't know if I've read more than 30 of them or something like that. Um, but they're very much Pulp Fiction. Anyways, the original writers no longer wrote them; they got ghost writers, and he would say thank you to so and so for this writing. One of my friends that happened to live in Lufkin, that we did a TV show called Whatever. That was before the Return of Whatever podcast. So anyway, so it all connects together. Anyways,
Oh, sorry. Or,
he actually made friends with the original writer that was still alive of the Destroyer series
cool.
because he was a fan. He was in the military also. I think that's kind of how he got introduced when he was in Korea, right? Yeah. Um, so South Korea. So anyways, he reached out. He actually had started writing some side. I call it glorified fan fiction in some aspects,
But no. These books by Peter David are glorified fan fiction. They're like
but
licensed fan
yeah,
fiction.
yeah. But they're actually licensed by that author to
Yeah,
do
they're
that. So
licensed, but they're yeah.
so he did like the Remo Williams Kids, which was
And
no
and some of them are licensed, but they're not necessarily considered canon.
yeah. but anyways, so he met and he told me that one of the great ghostwriters uh, would basically like take like 9 months, something like that, 6 or 9 months, writing every day, take off a month or two, and then jump right back into it. So they'd write maybe a book or two books a year, maybe it was 6 months. Anyways, it was a lot of months just flat out just focusing on that. And um, to write a book is hard. To write a good book is really hard. And to write a book that's good and people are willing to pay money for is, you're getting up to like the 5%, ten
Well,
percent level.
okay, at least like with a Star Trek book though, some of the work's been done. You've got characters. You've got characters that people like. You've got a world. You've got your universe. You've got your dramatic situation. So, but again, I'm not that it is still hard. I'm not trying to discount
Because like
their hard work.
people can write fanfic all day long, and they do.
And they do.
And I remember one of my friends, was trying to think of the most obscure thing, I don't know, like Glee and Batman or something like that. It's there, you
It's
know,
there.
I know
It
it's there.
it's
And
there.
then, Star Trek and any Doctor Who or any sci-fi
Buffy the
series,
Vampire Slayer.
there's some type of connection. And, most of it's pretty cringe, but every once in a while you might say, that's actually a
You know
little.
what? It's fan fiction. I'll take up. It's the Wild Wild West. Yeah, there's a lot of cringe in it, no doubt. But there is actually some really excellent fan fiction.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So,
And I will say,
and
back to my man, Peter David, at least the Q and Law book, he actually, Majel Barrett read it and actually gave him feedback before it was published. And Imzadi, if you're curious, um, was the last book that Gene Roddenberry didn't get to read it. He passed away, but Peter David had spoken to him about it, about the premise of it. And he said that Gene Roddenberry was excited and thought it would be a good idea to write a story about Troy and Riker's past on Beta Z. So he was supportive of the idea, although it's really not considered canon. But if you read it, there's some timey-wimey stuff, so it wouldn't be canon. It's like something that happened and then a time thing gets said again. So anyway. So,
yeah.
no, I don't want spoilers if you want to read Imzadi. And
Oh,
there are
well,
things about Imzadi that I'm not as, like I don't agree with, but there are things, whatever. It's a fun little Troy Riker shippy.
Heather, no one reads anymore, and that's the problem with the books. Like, okay, there are avid readers out there, but I don't think there are the same a number as there once were. And especially for folks going out there and
Kind
buying
of agree with
books,
that. We
because
got
it
too
used.
much streaming, too many podcasts, too
And
many
when you go
movies to
look,
read.
when you go look at like Walmart or even trying to find a magazine, they don't exist anymore. It used to be like you see a Star Trek book every once in a while, or and like even like the airports. I just came back from Orlando. I don't know, a couple of like 10 days ago, whatever it was, and uh, you don't you see some reading material, but it's usually the big ones that have been established
I
that
don't
are
see any like
there.
Picard fan fiction. I mean, not fan fiction. There is Picard fan fiction, I'm sure. I don't see any Picard licensed novels.
I don't know. I mean,
But back in the 80s and 90s, next gen licensed novels were like cockroaches.
oh,
They were
I
everywhere.
mean, I did a presentation on Star Trek leadership. They had Picard right on the cover of it, and they said the assignment was go find a book on leadership. And I bought this book, I don't know, 10 years ago, and I thought, what a great opportunity to read it. And I went through and picked certain episodes where there was like a command decision, some type of leadership
You're such a
position,
nerd.
and talked about what Captain Picard did, and then someone that would back it up, why that was good leadership, blah blah blah. Anyway, I mean, it was interesting. I don't know if it was really should have been used for academic purposes for an academic assignment, but it did give me the opportunity to read that book, and so now I can say I actually read that leadership book, and I made a video. Actually, I think I shared the actual the lecture I did on it on YouTube, and had a few people make some notes about that. So yeah, so awesome. Well, I know you have read several books on the X Files, right? Because you're a
I have.
big X Files fan.
Maybe I'll revisit some of those, but for whatever reason, I didn't like those as much as next gen books. But maybe I'll revisit them and see how they hold up.
Yeah, so let me pull up. You had picked a couple of
Bad Blood. So, things to
episodes
know about Bad
from
Blood. It was written
the.
by Vince Gilligan, who went on to write for Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. And this one, I don't know, at a convention, at a panel,
Oops.
David
Wrong.
Duchovny said that he thought it was Jillian's favorite episode because it was like the only one she remembered and the only one that she would talk about. So, and she said that she had a lot of fun filming it because she got to be kind of like she got to have two strong interpretations of Scully, and she enjoyed that. And this is definitely a fan favorite. In fact, if you really sent out a poll of the fans' favorite episode of X-Files, I think it would probably be Bad Blood.
Well,
Uh,
the one thing about
has a
this,
great cold open. That cold open is like perfect.
okay, real quick, and this has nothing to do with the episode. Gillian Anderson has asynchronous blinking.
Okay.
So I don't know why that bothered me. And another episode
That bothers you?
like
I
this.
find it really charming. I find it sort of like a little
So
quirky, Scully, endearing.
so that's known in the X File universe. So it's like
Okay,
this.
I mean, I don't know if anybody talks about it, but I always thought it was sort of cute. In fact, I used to try to practice kind of like blinking like her.
I had to go look that up because I knew it was some. I said, is there something wrong with her? And I looked it up. They call it asynchronous blinking. And so like normally you blink like a normal person like this, but
No, that's so
asynchronous
not a normal blink.
asynchronous is now I don't know. Surely some of it has to do with uh, being on film that you're at 24 frames a second or 30 frames a second. I don't know. I assume they were doing TV, which would be 30 frames a second. That they may have that kind of a effect that would amplify it a little bit more. But yeah, for some reason that bothered me. I never noticed that before, and I guess because I was on
See,
a.
I thought it was super charming. To me, it always made me kind of it made Dana seem kind of like vulnerable and kind of,
Does she keep that up in everything else she does?
I haven't paid attention. I'm a horrible human being.
Well, you may not notice it, and again, I don't know why it
I
was
don't
so.
think so. I let me put it this way. I'd have to go and check. I don't want to be wrong, but Dana Scully is the one who I remember with that little kind of look that you're talking about, and I don't particularly associate it with any of her other characters.
So, do you think it was an acting choice? Because if so, that's pretty cool, brilliant idea to do that. Um, Versus it's just being her. What I might equate it to that they might have been some really long days, and she's tired. She's trying to think of her lines, and like a lot of times when we do this, if you don't remember your lines, you look up. Like, all right, now I got it. You kind of I don't know if I mean surely she was more professional than that, but again, these are long days they have to do in these TV series, so she might have been fatigued, and then it kind of exacerbated it a little bit with that. But anyways, that was a part of that. So go ahead and give the plot to the store to Bad Blood.
Okay, the cold open, which I think is amazing if you're an X-File. Like the first time you see it is Mulder is running through the woods after someone, and you see Mulder catch that someone, and he drives the stake through their heart. And then you see Scully catch up to them, and Mulder's like, Scully, look, and he opens this person's mouth, and you see fangs. He opens the mouth, and they're vampire fangs. And Scully reaches down, and she knocks the fangs out of his mouth, and it's like little plastic Halloween fangs. And Mulder says, "Shit," and the credits start to roll. And at the end of those credits, which wasn't the only time, but it's not that common, instead of flashing like "Trust no one" or "I want to believe" or "Fight the future," that one says "Believe the lies."
Is that the
So
only
that's the
time?
cold open. Is Mulder has murdered this teenage kid, drove a stake through his heart because Mulder apparently thought he was a vampire.
Yeah, and I thought, well,
Yeah, what did you just based on the cold
yeah,
open? What was your
yeah, yeah.
reaction to the to that one?
I'm thinking, first off, I don't believe in vampires, but the other thing is like, eh, how do you recover from that? Once you murder somebody that you think is a vampire, I assume that's pretty much the end of your career in the FBI. I would think. Um, so, it wasn't like a wooden stake he had, basically, right? It was a
Yeah, Mulder had a wooden stake. Oh,
yeah.
I think
So,
didn't it show
like,
he got like a chair leg and he
yeah,
broke the
yeah.
chair and he
It was it later on, or was it during the cold? But anyways,
no, I don't think that was in the cold open. I think later on we see him grab the chair and grab the leg of the chair.
so eventually they were able to explain why he would have felt that or did that.
Well, that's the whole point of the episode. Like we
Yeah.
see that happen, and then it starts, like you said, like, is your career over? What happens? Where do you go from there? They're back at work and they're about to have to go into a meeting to explain all this. And the father of, or the parents of the family of this kid whose name is Ronnie Strickland are suing the FBI, and Mulder and Scully are in trouble, and that the whole point of the episode, they're in trouble, they're talking, and so Mulder decides he wants to get Scully's story of what happened and her point of view of, like he wants her to back him up and say this was a vampire and Mulder killed a vampire, and he wants to see what Scully heard, which of course Scully didn't think that that was a vampire.
Yeah, rightfully so.
So we started. It's the trick of this kind of like I don't know the what do you call it? Motif of this is the story's being told firstly through her point of view, and then the story being told through his point of view. So you get a lot of funny moments where, like in Scully's story, Mulder's kind of obnoxious, exuberant, doesn't really care and think about her at all. Like, and then in his story, she's kind of winchy and whiny. So that's part of the funny. It's a lighthearted episode. I know, yeah, it starts off with him killing a kid, but it's a lighthearted episode.
Yeah, usually that's frowned upon in traditional TV shows, a murder of a kid with
Not
vampire
X-Files. They just right there in the
veins.
cold open.
All right, so Vince Gilligan, of course, is famous for the Breaking Bad, and I think even better in some ways, or at least as good, Better Call Saul. And I know you got through a couple of seasons of Better Call Saul, um, and so is this? Would you call this a monster of the week?
Yes.
Okay, and so these are standalone. The monster of the week is
Yeah, no,
standalone.
this is a Monster of the Week, and this is a standalone episode.
Yeah, so you could
You could watch
watch it.
this when, yeah, you don't have to be. The only thing I would say it helps to know a little about X-Files is because I think it's funnier if you know the character when you see Mulder from Scully's point of view. Does that make sense? I mean, that's a little
Yeah.
twisty, but other than that, like, yeah, it's
Well, the yes, yeah. So like today, everything is 8 episodes or 10 episodes that are cycled together, connected together. Very few standalone episodes, for good or bad. It's just a
well, I mean,
different way of
X-Files
telling
does
a
have
story.
some canon episodes, but it also had its standalones. But I don't know. I guess I honestly think, and I usually don't think this, I honestly think that X-Files might be stronger in its standalone episodes. And usually I wouldn't say that. Usually I like arc episodes.
Well, like Picard, was it in Inner Light that he has that flute,
Yes.
civilization, and it's called back a few times later
But
on.
I wouldn't really call it is called back a few times.
And even I know you didn't watch Picard, but I think it's even I think called back in there a little
Oh,
bit.
is it? Good for
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So it's but remember that one his friend the archaeologist teacher, he gave him that cool statue of
Really?
that was inside of a statue inside, kind of like a Russian cup where you have all anyways in there. So on was it not Generations? Yeah, Generations. When the ship crashed, Picard's going through his prized possessions, and he just like throws that out of the way and gets that photo book. I'm thinking this is like one of the prized possessions that his great teacher gave him, anyway. So,
Okay, we're
um,
talking about Bad Blood.
anyway, so uh, yeah, it is interesting the Cedar dynamics in there.
So Scully starts telling her story. And Mulder's obnoxious. He's like, "Wait, we're going to investigate this," and she's like, Lance Weasley's like, "Oh, we got to investigate vampire." Or he's like, "What do you think this is, Scully?" And she's like, "Well, it's not vampires." Like, why not, Scully? Because they don't exist.
Well, it's and they're going to Texas, right?
They go to Cheney, Texas,
Yeah, so this is a Texas
and they
episode.
argue over the name of the hotel where they stay.
Yeah, and they had that one with was it put a quarter in and
The,
relax.
the magic fingers for the bed. Yeah, I just put my
Man,
magic fingers.
the hotels I ever stayed in the 90s or 80s, those things never work. I think I got like one time it actually worked, and then it was always broken. Anyways, so anyways, I can't remember when I stopped seeing those. I guess sometime in the late 90s. And matter of fact, I didn't really stay in that many hotel rooms, um, until I got a real job. So when I was in college, I didn't have any money to go anywhere. Um, but anyway, so they're in the 90s. That was and it basically was kind of like a dive hotel, right?
Yeah, it was like a dive hotel,
Because it was in the middle of nowhere and
motel, really.
motel, yeah. And they got a pizza, coming in, and then
Scully ordered a pizza. And that's the thing. Scully ordered a pizza, and Mulder sends her to do an autopsy because whatever is killing these people that Mulder thinks is a vampire has killed again. And so he comes to the hotel and tells Scully to go do an autopsy. And when she leaves, her pizza arrives. And the pizza guy is this teenager that Mulder later kills.
so her skill set is a physician. She's a doctor,
She is a doctor. She's a medically trained doctor.
so she's a medical doctor that decided to go into the
She was
FBI
recruited for the FBI.
and then joined the X Files.
Got assigned to the X-Files.
And then the other guy, he's just a regular FBI agent.
Mulder went to Oxford. He has a degree in psychology.
Does he get recruited or he just joins the
You
FBI
know, or
just
did he
to?
just join? I think he might have just joined and specifically wanted the X-Files because he wanted to look for his sister and
Yeah.
he thought that that was where he could investigate information about
So had his sister not get abducted by aliens or whatever in the
what?
future, had his sister not get abducted by aliens or whatever in the future, he may have
Yeah.
gone on to
Yeah,
academic
yeah.
career.
He might have done something else. Well, maybe he would have gone psychology, but maybe he would have gone to private practice or something. I don't mean, But yeah, his quest, his mission is to either find his sister or at least find out what happened to his sister.
And he is a believer. She is not.
Yes, he definitely believes there was some big conspiracy behind what happened to his sister. That's why he's on the X-Files, and he wants to expose that. He believes that it likely has to do with covering up extraterrestrial life, that they found aliens and they're covering it up, and that has something to do with his sister. And he believes all that. She does not. She believes in kind of hardcore science, medical doctor.
So there they are. There's the fangs, right?
There's a yeah, the I love that
Um,
episode so much.
and there they are. I'm trying. I was trying to see the episode, see if they had one where they actually are talking in the office or something like that. I guess that's sort of it right there, right? No, that's in the hotel
Maybe
room.
that looks like they're talking in the office.
I think that's a hotel room. I don't know.
I think it's the office.
There they are getting yelled at,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's before they go into the room to no, that's the very last scene when they're talking to Skinner. Because okay, just so people so they go, they're investigating these murders, and Mulder thinks that the pizza guy did it. He thinks the pizza guy's a vampire who killed all these people. So Mulder goes and stakes him through the heart. So Mulder and Scully go back to the FBI and they're in trouble because they killed this kid. And it turns out this kid really is a vampire, and Mulder didn't kill him because he's a vampire. And he gets up and he kills somebody else. So they have to go back to Cheney, Texas to investigate this new murder. Well, no, no, no. It's not a new murder. They say he was just gnawed on. So the kid woke up in the morgue and attacked the mortician, but he didn't actually kill him. So Mulder and Scully go back to investigate that. And when they go back, ultimately, somehow they both end up, I don't know if it's drugged or whatever. And the whole little town of vampires has just moved. No one's there. None of the vampires. The sheriff was a vampire. He was trying to seduce Scully, well, acting like he might be seducing Scully, but anyway, she woke up alone in the car, and she had his badge on her jacket, but they had
So
all gone. So they,
so do you think they were actually real vampires or just like this cult of people pretending to vampires?
you know what? I think that's why I think that's what's so rich about the X-Files. So often they leave you with this eerie, what was it really this weird supernatural thing, or was it really people pretending to be vampires? Was it really and it that's I think the genius of vampires, the genius of X-Files is it kind of plays with that line of reality of it leaves you just enough to go like, huh, was it what? But also kind of leaves you with it, but maybe not.
Well, I mean, the more logical choice would be that, because there is no, they don't establish vampires anytime else, do they?
You know what is I think that is the only vampire episode of X-Files.
Because, what is a vampire? That's somebody that, you know, gets their nutrients from blood, right?
I guess.
I mean, that's what a vampire, and I guess, you know,
But I
uh,
mean, yeah, they do episodes with a lot of things that
I mean, I remember, reading, different cultures and they didn't have food. They would, drink blood of animals they might have slaughtered or whatever. So, um, but I wouldn't call that a vampire. But anyways, but I was just establishing that there wasn't really a vampire component to his sister being lost.
No, no, no. This is just a standalone monster of the week. He's just investigating X-Files, but that's why he's on the X-Files. But
What
yeah,
about?
this is just a regular monster of the week episode.
Well, let's go to the episode.
Now, did you see any could you see any Vince Gilligan's writing? Could you see any Saul in Mulder?
Maybe a little bit, maybe a little bit. And again, Vince Gilligan talked about this because I listened to the Breaking Bad podcast and the Better Call Saul podcast, and I did the same thing with Battlestar Galactica. You learn a lot about filmmaking by people that actually make stuff. And he talked about that. He came in, I guess, either fifth season or whatever. It turned out that was his fifth episode he wrote. Um, and he said he didn't realize that people didn't like X Files that much anymore because it was a great gig. It paid a lot of money. They had a good budget for things. He would have kept on doing that instead of doing Breaking Bad because it probably paid way more than some syndicated thing on AMC. Um, so I thought that was interesting in some ways. But the other episode, the Unusual Suspects, I see it a little bit more.
Really?
Yeah. And so I guess that's a good segue to kind of dive into that next episode.
I was interested to see which one you would like more because I know you like The Lone
Oh,
Gunman.
I like this one a whole lot better, uh,
Yeah?
because partially because it is. I like that there they got that poster like the kind of a homage to the Usual Suspects movie that was popular at the time. Uh, this is kind of their origin story, and they jump back to 1989, right?
Yeah.
And uh, 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 Gillian Anderson's not in this one, really,
No.
because she had admit she wasn't in the FBI at the time,
No, no,
right?
no, no. Yeah, no. The Lone Gunmen were established, and their relationship with Mulder was established before. In fact, in the first episode, is it the first? I think in the first episode, Mulder takes Scully to meet the Lone Gunmen. I mean, it's
In the
part of their investigation. They're going for a reason, but that is something that happens in the
in the
first
in the
episode.
in the first episode,
I think it's
wow.
the first. I'm pretty sure it's the first episode. And Frohicke's like, "Oh, you're so hot" to Scully,
Yeah, and what was interesting is that they didn't like each other. They weren't even friends at all. They didn't like
who
what they
Mulder and
were.
Scully, or Frohicke and Scully.
The lone gunman, gunman. They had nothing to do. One was a computer nerd, uh, basically trying to sell wares, right? One of them was like a electronics person, and the other one was, just I guess kind of conspiracy. And they're all at this. How was it? Electronics, like a kind of electronics convention,
Yeah, yeah,
something
they
like
are.
that.
They're at electronics convention,
And
technology convention, something like that.
yeah, technology things, and they all get connected together. And the was it the one of the guys that sent the undercurrent said something about John F. Kennedy, and then was there just one? What was the thing that he said? Was it this one long? Was it this one a lone gunman by itself, or was it
Is that
more?
Byers?
Yeah, I think so. Something to that. They gave him their name basically,
Yeah.
and so this is where they actually decided that they need to work together to find the truth. Now, I was a fan of the Lone Gunman TV show series, coincidentally. I don't know how, but I think it lasted like 12 episodes, something like that. And do you know why they killed off the Lone Gunman?
No, I don't. I thought it was a stupid move.
The Fox was so upset that the series did so poorly. They didn't want to have any. They didn't want them on TV anymore. So
Oh,
they
because the Lone Gunmen didn't do very well?
yeah. So they could either have them go out
Yeah,
to the
and I know
sunset.
you probably disagree. I like the Lone Gunmen in X-Files. I think they're appropriate. Like I can see, I could like that's right. Those are the friends Mulder would have. I don't really think a series about them would work.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Today, where you can do 8 episodes a season, I
Mm.
think you could. But back then, when you got to do 22 episodes, 24 episodes, man, that's a
You know, I
lot.
would agree with that because yeah, I would agree with that.
So today, if you do a four episodes, you absolutely could do it. Uh,
Yeah, no, no,
bas-
I agree with that.
Basically a movie or extended movie, you could do it. But they could do 6 or 8 episodes. They could do 8 episodes because there's things like they're like Silo, that you would never be able to afford to do 26 episodes, but you could do 8 or 10 episodes. Anyway, so uh, that's the reason why they killed him off was that they thought, well, let's have them basically saving the world, right? Kind of in a way.
Yeah, but I don't know. As much as I do love X-Files and I think it holds up a lot, but toward the end, I think killing them was I think so much of the ending and kind of I think a lot of what disappointed me at the end is like what X-Files does well is that creepy, eerie. What was it? Was it really just this weird cult people and they moved on, or was it really vampires? And when they tried to answer questions and give you the definitive, here's what happened, it just was always disappointing. It lost the magic when you lost that kind of suspension of disbelief.
And I guess they had thought about trying to bring them back, but then it would negate that they sacrificed their lives to save the world, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
sure. I didn't like much of anything about the end of X-Files.
So they came back with a flashback of them when
They
I
did. Yeah, there's a little flashback of them.
was he like I can't remember he was knocked out or whatever. He had someone
Yeah, and he kind of sees them there.
sees them as
They're
his
like
friends,
Jedis,
you know,
like dead Jedis.
giving some great advice or whatever, you know. So that didn't compute for you. Didn't compute it for you. Anyways, it didn't. And again, I don't know if that was the right decision or not. I might would have said, okay, we'll let him ride off into the sunset.
You
But
know what? I would not have killed him off because, like now, X-Files can come back for little seasons and movies, and you could have had them in them, which I think would have helped a lot. Because honestly, when they came back, it's not a good thing.
well, yeah, yeah, exactly. They could have had a
They could have, yeah.
so what I always think is this: they're thinking for the immediate and versus the long game. Yeah, right now the studio hates them, but could you sneak them in once a season?
Yeah, or in a movie, have a little scene.
And then they explode a little bit. So you know what? They got a little pop. So now we can bring them for 3 episodes or 5 episodes or whatever it is. And they really weren't on there that much, were they?
No, they weren't. They were not on there just all the time. No, they weren't on there that much.
So I think they could have handled it. Now,
But
do
the other
you?
episode you should check out is Three of a Kind. It's another,
Well,
it's
do
kind
you?
of the continuation of Unusual Suspects.
The Lone Gunmen, they had their own little TV series here, right? The Last Appearance of Babylon. That was, I guess, that was their. And I was trying to get to their. So here's the times that we saw them. So here's five. When they kill them off, do you know what episode they killed them off at?
It was in the the last one. I think will be the one they killed him off.
No, what season? Okay, season 11. That's the last one there, right?
Yeah,
So they killed them off there.
yeah, and then
So
they had the
so
kind of
so they
ghostly
lasted.
Jedi appearance.
So they lasted all the way to season 10.
Oh yeah,
Okay. So I kind of thought. I guess I didn't know when the series
no,
came out.
they really made it basically all through X-Files. Well, the main body of X-Files, not the new seasons and yeah.
Did you watch the Lone Gunman TV series?
You know what? I never did.
The one here, they got it right here. The one episode that kind of gets a lot of claim before 9/11 happened. Apparently, that was kind of a plane was going to crash into the World Trade Center, and this was 6 months before it actually happened. So a coincidence, is unheard of to think that some bad guys wants to do that. So cancel after 13 episodes. The final episode jumped the shark. They returned to the episode Jump the Shark in the ninth season, and he died in the ninth season. So they died there. So how'd they come back in these other 2 episodes?
I don't even know. I was
You
so done with X-Files by the end.
so you didn't remember? Okay, all right.
Other than like a hallucination of Mulder's, like a flashback.
Well, if a big fan like you couldn't handle it, but what I did like about the episodes is how they all got together, trying to figure out what's going on. And again, not that in real life, but let's say that something like that might have happened, where you knew something was going on and you can't prove it. Then you meet a couple other people that understand that hey, we were part of this thing, even though they kind of wiped it all away, right? Because they basically made it where those events didn't happen. They can't prove any of it, and so what is the truth? And do you just like say, well, you know what, just chalk it up, just walk it off, Or do you like, well, I'm going to devote my life and eventually die saving the earth? Most people probably just would walk it off and say, forget it. It is what it is, kind of just go on from there. But yeah, of the two, I enjoyed that one more. But
Did you enjoy Bad Blood at all?
it was fine. But again, her eyeball stuff didn't help.
Oh, see, well, whatever. I guess we're just different. I thought that was kind of adorable. I mean,
So,
all through X-Files, I always thought it was kind of cute.
so the first episode she did that,
I'm sure she does.
and she never stops. Or you don't.
Not Scully always. Well, okay, Scully always does it. Now, I don't know when they bring her back for the non-contiguous series, she might have grown out of that, but
So do you think she was doing that on purpose as an actor?
I do.
That is awesome. I wonder if there is some type of biological reason that people have asynchronous blinking.
It would be a neurological reason.
Yeah. So there's something neurology, something wrong with her potentially that we don't know about.
Dude, I think you're making a
No,
big
no, no,
deal
no, no, no,
about a
no,
little
no,
Lincoln.
no, no. That's great. If you're so if you thought out, you're acting so well that you're willing to do this. I'm like, wow. Um,
I don't think she thought it out like, oh, I'm going to give Scully an asynchronous blink. I think she was just like, I am Scully, so what is she going to do? And she's in a moment and she's annoyed with Mulder and she doesn't feel she has the gravitas just to tell him off, so she kind of does that face.
that's great. Remember remember the Greatest American Hero, the FBI agent in it.
Yes.
Anyways, they were talking about like uh, the walk. If you get the once you get the walk down, you got your character. The walk's the most important part. Now I don't know if that's necessarily true, but it is an important part, especially in a movie or TV show. So in some ways that was kind of her walk for whatever when she couldn't do whatever she couldn't do, she went to that, and you know what? Maybe that's why she's such a good actor. Maybe that's why she was able to
I think
survive.
some ways that's, because I think there were times she had less lines and times, I mean, like I say, she couldn't necessarily just say what's on her mind and disagree with Mulder right then and there. And I think that's part of the genius of Gillian Anderson. I think that's part of why Scully has such a powerful arc and why she, yeah, definitely holds up as a co-star. I think it started out as the Mulder show and it was supposed to be his vehicle, but I mean, she makes it hers.
Well, like again, when because I do my little independent films and have people help out acting that aren't really professionals, and that's fine. I in some ways I actually kind of prefer that in some ways, but every once in a while I talk to somebody that we've done some comic cons where they want to be an actor and they come to my back background acting session, and no, that's not how you do it. Anyways, but the thing is like this: when you see a really good actor, there's a reason why. Some of it may be intuitive, but a lot of it is they worked on that character to be able to sell that and make it work so well. Um, remember Urkel, Family was a Family Matters.
Yes.
He wasn't supposed to be the lead, right?
No.
Did you watch it? I really didn't really watch it, but I
I,
knew
I
of
I
it.
mean, I've seen episodes of it. I'm aware of what it is and
So
basically who the characters were.
he just came out with a book, and he talks about how that first they had all these big shots that were supposed to be like the vehicle, but he was the one that stole the show. And he said the reason why was that he had all these writers that really couldn't write for an African American family, but he could sell it, whatever weird thing they had him do that normally a kid wouldn't do. And so
I
they
agree, but I also think that sometimes there's something about annoyance that sells.
true, but I'm
Like,
saying
I want my Maypo. Well, yeah, that sells because it's annoying. And also, I think he changed the demographic of who was watching.
what he was
It could
saying
have
though,
been a family show with parents watching, and Urkel really turned it into a children's show.
true, but 212 episodes, it would have lasted maybe a season, maybe two. And so that was a big money maker in a lot of aspects. But what I'm
And
saying
I'm
was
not
that
saying, I mean, he's talented, but I don't think that that is in the same way as Gillian Anderson.
as a kid, okay, again, he was a kid actor also. For him to realize that I got to believe this, whatever I'm saying, and make it believable and make it where it's actually who I am in it was something that again, I'm not saying he's Bryan Cranston or anything like that, but it does show that if you're able to put some time into the characters, and even like the lone man. Why do I like the lone man, the lone gunman? Well, there's a computer nerd, right? There's an
You
electronics
like the lone
guy.
gunman because you think you're the lone gunman.
Who doesn't? So,
Most
anyways,
people, but you do.
so
You like the
anyways,
lone gunman the same reason you like Red Dwarf,
yeah. Well, it's because it's great.
because you think you're those people.
So anyway, so the idea for her to actually pick that as a choice. Now, David Duchovny is a solid actor. Maybe he didn't need to do a crutch to
They're
do some of those
both
things.
solid actors. I'm not, yeah.
Well, he was more established initially,
No, no,
right?
no. He was more established. It was supposed to be the Mulder show, and they are both solid actors. And I think, okay, I think they got lucky with both of them, but he was definitely more solid and less of a risk. I think they got tremendously lucky with her.
Yes.
Again, she came from a stage background. I always fall for the actors from stage background. Like every time I'm just like, oh wow, just so impressed with an actor. When I look them up, they definitely have a lot of stage experience.
And the lone gunman really didn't do anything that I think I looked a little bit. They really didn't do anything too much other than that.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Now, if they're all still alive, I don't know if they are, but if they
I
came out
think
to,
they are, but I don't
they
know.
could make bank going to Comic Cons.
Yeah, and you know
Like
what? I don't know that I really
I,
particular. Maybe they do, but I don't. From the
haven't seen
Comic
them.
Cons I've been in,
You get a photo with all three of them, they could charge, I don't know, at least 150, 300. They probably
I
charge
don't know that as many people are as big of fans of them as you are.
well, okay, there's enough X-File fans that like them probably enough they would take a picture with them. And you know what? Maybe X-Files is gone now because you don't really hear about it as much. And like you said, the
Well,
two,
with anything, I don't think it helps when you end it so badly. Frankly, even the contiguous show ended badly, and then the later seasons in movie just weren't good either. So I think that definitely takes off a lot of enthusiasm. It's just like Game of Thrones. I mean, who's enthusiastic about Game of Thrones anymore?
um,
And it was brilliant. That was like a perfect series. I mean, that those first seasons are among, in fact, all of them until the last season are just the most flawless, beautifully executed, well-written shows you could ever imagine. And then in one season, they just take it to where you're not excited about it at all.
absolutely. Um, but I mean, okay, real quick before we end this episode, tell us why X-Files meant so much to you as a kid.
Oh, I don't know. I do think there's a time in your life when you fan something hard, and I was teenager, early 20s when X-Files was going on. Also, just part of me you don't like. I do like. I kind of liked the dark weirdness of it. I like that creepy, is it true? Is it not? Like I like the Twilight Zone effect of X-Files. I liked that it was weird and strange and then of course just Jillian. I mean, I was a young girl and yeah, she was a big role model for me. She was smart. She was smart, funny. Well, no, she's not funny, but she's smart. Wow, I'm hitting smart a lot. But again, the way Jillian played her, such an excellent actress. Again, the vulnerability, the asynchronous eye look, the she was strong and capable and still vulnerable. And you could have a Mulder Rescue Scully episode without making Scully kind of pathetic or weak. It's brilliant.
One of my
Good
friend,
writing, excellent characters.
one of my friends was really a big X-File fan. I think partially because of her, and
Yeah, no, a lot of people were, and yeah, yeah, she kind of steps up and steals the show. I mean, the Mulder Scully dynamic. I don't know that X-Files would have done as well if those had been two men characters.
so it was on Sunday night. I do remember, right?
Yes.
They had The Simpsons, whatever the other ever cartoon they had on. I can't remember if that was a two, I think that was a 3 hour block on Sunday. So they had another hour or something. Then the last hour was X Files, where people would talk about it the next Monday.
And I think X-Files does a good job. The characters are so like Mulder and Scully, you know them. You know their families, you know their personal time. You like a show like Law and Order, I feel like a lot of time, well, I don't know. I don't watch, so don't come for me, but like I feel like a lot of times it's like you see them at work, but you don't get anything else in their world.
Well, the other thing is Game of Thrones came out on Sunday. Walking Dead came out on Sunday. Breaking Bad came out on Sunday, wasn't it? Yeah. Better Call Saul came out on Sunday. So that and that's kind of a time frame where that if it comes out on Sunday, you can watch it. Then there's buzz at the water cooler the next day at work. And now I'm sure it got moved around later on, but I do remember for a long time it was that Sunday drive time pickup before the nightly news. That it wasn't the early one because they had some violence potentially on it or whatever, some weird stuff going on. And ultimately, this is Fox throwing mud onto the wall, seeing if something would. They did not expect this would last more than a season,
Oh
probably.
no, 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 no. Yeah, not at all. They and it yeah, it became a number one show and they no, it and that's another thing I really kind of love about X-Files. It wasn't supposed to work.
Yes. Um, well, that's awesome. Well, I kind of let you pick because I forgot what I was going to do, but
But if you want to pick this week, you can, because
yeah,
I picked.
I finally now again I know it might take a little bit longer in some ways, but and that's okay. I'm curious if you know this around. I wanted to make sure that you could watch it, and also like some of the fans out there that it's still available to be able to watch. And so happily, it's available on Tubi, so you can watch it, and the
Oh,
whole world can
yay.
watch it. I watched this sometime in the '90s, and it came on. I think it was USA. It was, and again, we joked around this a little bit. Like I could tell you what TV channel a show came on.
Oh, yes, you can. You're a freak like that.
So like, ask me a show that came out in the '70s, '80s, even '60s maybe.
Um, Facts of Life.
Oh, that's NBC. Different
Small
Strokes.
Wonder.
And Small Wonder was syndicated.
Um, Different Strokes.
NBC. So anyway,
What's
so
that one? Silver Spoons.
NBC. And why I remember that I don't know, but partially because you know we didn't have the internet, so you had to know what channel things were on. They even had junk like this, the nightly sorry the battle of the networks, and so they had the ABC camp, CBS camp, NBC camp, and they would do like activities like they would run laps or whatever, do some water jump across water, whatever it was, and so maybe that's partially it. Anyways, that has nothing to do with this. Um, so here it is, and I'm really curious if you know anything about it. You ready?
Sure.
The Prisoner.
Nothing about it. So
They did a re boot, but they didn't really finish it. But it's on. So that is so. Just watch the first episode, the
the
Arrival.
first episode of The Prisoner.
Yeah,
All right.
and I think there's only what is there altogether? It was it only one season? Yeah, it was only one season. So you can actually and actually it actually ends. So 17 episodes. Uh, it actually it actually has a finale of it. So think of the time frame here. This is 1967. Think what's going on at the time frame with this here, and I don't want to dive into much more what it is, but it's called The Prisoner, and the famous what do they call this? The unicycle, the paracycle. Anyways, that's the logo for the Prisoner. Even when they did the reboot of it, they didn't last. They have that there. So hope you enjoy it, and because I know you're like British stuff. Um, this is time frame when Doctor Who was going on, and I think you'll notice the production value is
Doctor Who
slightly
is going on forever, dude.
well. I think you'll notice the production value is slightly better than Doctor Who, and just kind of curious what you think about the Prisoner. So
Okay, so the prisoner it is.
person it is. So yeah, well, we did some pretty good episodes this season of this podcast, and what we talked about before was like if we could do a podcast daily, that would be great.
Oh, that would be
Uh,
awesome.
but we both got jobs
Well,
and
one and a half jobs.
job and things to do. And even sometimes weekly doesn't quite work out because of various things going on. But
And this is, sorry, spoilers, this is not a wildly successful podcast that's paying any bills. Like this
what?
is
No, you're wrong. Everybody loves it. It's getting so much massive
this is us just
love
talking on a phone,
on
except we
on,
decided to film it and put it on YouTube.
people love it on TikTok. Well, they really love the shorts, or I don't know, love strong word, but it,
Really love, like,
we get a lot more views of this of the
are we
little
getting any comments at
36
all?
sometimes.
Oh,
Anyways,
really? What do they say?
say it's great. I can't remember. It's not that many of them. So
No,
I
it's not.
should I should remember. There's not that many of them. Well, anyway, so hopefully you'll enjoy that. Enjoy the prisoner. So let's kind of end this thing.
Okay.
So thanks again for watching the Random Fandom Zone. Uh, I'm Herbert,
I'm Heather.
and we'll see y'all the next time. And please subscribe and tell everybody about this amazing podcast so we can get some more likes so Heather can read them and everything. So thank y'all. Thank y'all again. We'll see y'all soon, y'all.
See you soon.
And we're out.